This is a 2004 Z06, and you know, when I'm driving in really slow moving traffic on a really hot day, this car runs too hot. It runs at sometimes up to 235 degrees. That to me is borderline overheating. I think if it runs like that often, I think it can shorten the lifespan of the engine, even destroy it. So I don't want this engine to run any more than, say, 200 degrees Fahrenheit. And this is how I'm going about accomplishing this. I've installed a high capacity radiator. I swapped out the standard, the stock cooling fans with the high performance cooling fans. I've installed a 160 degree thermostat here. Now, swapping out this radiator is actually, it's pretty easy. And there's a number of videos on YouTube that address this, and they do a pretty good job. One of them is by a guy named Froggy, and the other one is called My Corvette Life. And if you want to know the specifics of how to go about pulling this the old stock radiator out and putting the new high-performance radiator fans and everything in, they give a pretty good description of how to do it. It's actually a pretty easy job. I deviated from what they did. Is I installed a radiator that has the engine oil cooler built into the driver's side tank of the radiator. And let's go to the other side and I'll show you a little bit about that. These oil lines come, if you look over here, these oil lines here, the top oil line is from the engine block, and it comes from a thermostat in there. And it goes up, that's the outflow of the thermostat. And it goes right here, you can't really see it, but there's a fitting right below the radiator hose that line connects to. Now, routing these hoses is a little bit tricky. You want to keep them away from, for example, any moving parts. And you also don't want them to get too hot from the exhaust manifold. Now you can see here that I've insulated that oil cooler line, that oil cooler hose, with some heat-proof material, because it's getting a little bit close to that exhaust manifold. So underneath the car, here's the engine block. Here's where the new thermostat. It's actually a thermostat. What it does is allows the engine to warm up before it bypasses the engine oil to the radiator. It bolts up really pretty easy. I did not take the oil filter off, but I did drop the exhaust to get the easier access to it. And if you notice the cooler lines here, I have them routed up. If you come over here and see that, I have them routed up from the thermostat. These are the engine oil cooler lines. They come up through here, and the one that comes out of the thermostat goes up to the top of the radiator, and the one that comes back to the thermostat comes from the bottom of the radiator. This is it right here. As I mentioned, you got to keep it clear of any moving parts, and it connects right here to the bottom. This here is the engine oil cooler part of the radiator. Now, the next thing you've got to do to accomplish this is you've got to have the control module reprogrammed so the cooling fans come on at a lower temperature. So there's a couple ways to go about this. You can either have somebody else do it with a tuner. You could buy a tuner, which they're kind of expensive, like $400 or $500. Or you can pull the control unit out, control module out, and have it sent out, is what I did. So you got to remove this naturally to send it out. Here it is right here. I don't know why they put it here. It's kind of exposed to the elements. It's below the battery, so if your battery leaks, you can dump acid all over it. They should have really put it inside the car, but someplace under the dashboard, but they didn't. So here's how you have to get it out. The first thing you got to do is you got to pull this out here. It's really pretty easy to get out. There's these screws around here. there's this little funny clip that goes in there, and there's a couple screws on the bottom. This one, and this one. You got to pull all these screws out, and this pops right out. And then I also, to get better access to it, I also pulled this piece of plastic out. There's 2 screws that hold this little piece of plastic in here. Comes right out. Now, next thing you want to do, if you want a little bit more room to work in here, you can take these screws out here. There's one here. There's a couple on the bottom here. And then there's one kind of way back in there. I don't know whether you can see that or not. Can you see that screw way back in there? That's got to come out. They're actually pretty easy to get to. And then it'll allow you to flex this thing out a little bit. Be gentle with it. Okay, you don't want to reef on it too hard. What I did, come over here, I simply pulled it up just far enough and put a little block of wood in there. Now I have really easy access to pull this control module out. There's a plastic bracket that holds this thing in. There's one screw here, and if you were to look down inside here, you can see the other one. Once you get those 2 screws undone, this bracket pulls away and just slip it out of the way. Now the control module itself, by the way, the wiring harnesses are located underneath there, and there's 2 screws in the center of these wire harnessing brackets. And they actually, when you unscrew them, they act like as a jack, and they pull the wiring harnesses out. Now be careful that when you're doing that they come out evenly. In other words, they don't cock like that, okay? If they cock like that, you can maybe break something or bend the little pins in there. But if you unscrew these 2 screws down here all the way, it pulls these out. Now, to get the control unit out, they're held in this other bracket here in kind of a tapered arrangement. And because this thing is exposed to the elements, this aluminum body is subject to corrosion. And those little tapered things that they fit into can get corroded, and if you go pulling on this at one side, this side, if it comes loose and the other side doesn't come loose, you can break this plastic bracket. So what I did is I got some penetrating oil, and after I got this bracket off, I found where that was. I hit it here with some penetrating oil, and I hit it on the other side over here with some penetrating oil. It's pretty obvious how it's connected once you get this off. And I just sort of like wiggled it back and forth and kind of worked the penetrating oil in until it pulled out. And as I mentioned, pull it out evenly. You don't want to break this plastic bracket here. So that's really about it. It goes out, it comes out pretty easily, and I just got this back. I'll give you all the numbers for all the stuff that I've done to this, all the parts and where I've sent this thing out. These DeWitt's products that I got, the radiator, the oil hose kit, and the fan, I got them from a company called Speedway Motors. And I've gotten other stuff from them. I've always been satisfied with their service. They really stock all this stuff. And their turnaround time it's very good. And there's free shipping. That's even better. First is, it's a DeWitt's radiator. These are very well made. They're expensive. For this particular car, it's this right here. And the E designates engine oil cooler. It's the 321139097E. These prices have gone up since then. I know because I just bought another one for this other car over here. I'll show you in a minute. So that's the radiator for this particular car. Here is the engine oil cooling kit that includes the thermostat. It's a 32894C. Those are the hoses that you saw, the thermostat, all the hardware fittings that you need to do the job. And the last thing is this SPO15 high performance cooling fans. And it has a 32 SPO15. So that's it. Now, this is kind of a nice material that I bought from O'Reilly's Auto Parts. And this you can use to insulate those pipes. What's really nice about it is it uses Velcro to fasten it together. So it's not going to come apart. It's nicely made. It's all fiberglass. Nicely made material. And then the last thing is, it's a Mishimoto 160-degree thermostat. It's an MMTS VET97L. That's a 160-degree thermostat I put in the car. That's really about it. This radiator here is going to go into this one. This is also running hot. My daughter had it out the other day, and she was afraid she was overheating the car, so she shut it off, and I told her, called me up, and I told her, turn the air conditioning on, and that brought the temperature down. Because when you turn the air conditioning on, it turns the fans on. I'll tell you where I sent this out to have the retuned, the control module retuned to lower the temperatures. It's Wong's Performance Engineering, and they're in Vancouver, Washington. The guy's name is Tom. He's done other work for me before. I'm very happy with this. It's not that expensive, including the sales tax and the shipping. It was $147 to have this done. This turnaround time was like just a couple days. I sent it out to him, and he had it back to me within like 3 or 4 days. And I haven't tested this one yet, but I don't foresee any problems with his work. So I highly recommend Tom Wong of Wong's Performance Engineering. Recommend him. If you want to have it sent out, he's the man to go to. It got the radiator, the thermostat, the fans, and this thing on the hottest day in slow traffic, it never goes above 190 degrees, which is, I think, that's satisfactory. So that's about it. I suggest that you do this because I believe that if you heat these engines up frequently to 235 degrees, I don't think it's good for them. And then there's not much of a margin of error. You know, you start getting up another 10, 15 degrees, now that engine's overheating. So if you have one of these cars and you drive a lot, especially in hot summer weather and heavy traffic, you really want to look into making this modification. And that's about it. Good luck. If you have any comments, questions or comments, I'll be glad to answer anything that you come up with. Okay, take care. Good luck with the job.